Hello, this is Brother Johnny Williams with another edition of In the Word. First, let me explain to or apologize to all of my followers and subscribers for yesterday. I intended to do a special sermon for Mother's Day, but I could not bring myself to do it. Let me explain. I am still grieving over the loss of my mother, and we all grieve in different ways. Myself, I had to be strong for my family during that real sad time, my mom's funeral, immediately after passing. I had to be strong for them. I couldn't grieve properly. And yesterday, as they say sometimes, things hit you like a ton of bricks. And the way I grieve may sound funny to you, but I wanted to be alone with my wife. Let me explain that. I prayed and I asked the Lord for a good woman, one with traits like my mother. And God bless, He gave her to me. And when I am with her, not with my children, not with anyone else, I feel closer to my mother. I hope and I trust that that explains my absence. But tonight, I have prayed on it and I've thought about it, and God gave this to me. This sermon, I'm not going to name. I'm just going to teach out of the book of Job. And there are a few key points in this story that I'm going to come back at the end and hit on the reason that I chose this story to teach from tonight. So if you would like to follow along with me, let's get to the book of Job. We're going to start at chapter 1. And again, I'm not going to hit on all the key points in this story. It's a story. I'm going to bring it to you edited, so to speak, where everyone can understand and follow along. And so let me give you a minute to get Job and we'll begin. Okay. There was a man that lived in the land of Uz named Job. A man that feared God and eschewed evil. Now, a lot of people want to understand that word eschewed evil, so I'll break it down. When they say eschewed evil, that means stayed away from evil. And he feared God. Again, what do we mean by fear God, our almighty loving Father? I would have to take you to Proverbs in order to get you a clear understanding of what I mean by fear the Lord. And in Proverbs, it says, the beginning of knowledge is fear of the Lord. Now, let's look at it this way. Can you remember when you were just a youngster and mom or daddy told you not to do something and you did it anyway? And after you did it, you thought you were in trouble. Fear and respect go hand in hand. So let's look at it in that context. What do you mean by fear the Lord? And if you fear something, you are prone more to pay attention to that. So I hope that cleared that up. And let's get back to our story. This man was a great man back in the time. He had just all kinds of animals and gold, great things. He was considered one of the greatest men in the land back in those times. Again, a man's wealth back then was measured by the animals and things that he had. Well, one day, the sons of God presented themselves before the Almighty, and Satan came along with them. Now, again, let me break off from that and let me get back to it. I'm telling it in a way that people can relate to what I'm saying. In no way am I disrespecting the scriptures by using a different terminology, but it's still going along with the story and the meaning of it. Again, the sons of God came before the Almighty, and Satan came right along with them. And the Lord asked, whence comest thou? And he said, from walking to and fro on the earth, up and down in it. And the Lord asked him, have you noticed my servant Job, perfect and upright man? And Satan kind of, you can think he kind of chuckled. Does he? Does he really fear you? Have you not blessed everything that he had? You put a hedge about it. He said, but if you put forth your hand, you mess with him, then he'll curse you. And God told him, do what you will. And Satan went about attacking Job. He took his sheep, he took his oxen, he took his cattle, he took his donkeys, everything. He just took all this stuff away from him. And one of the most hurting things that happened, one of the servants came running and saying that his sons and daughters were eating his eldest son's house. And the wind smote the four corners of the house, and it killed him. Can you imagine how Job felt when he heard this news? Now, it wasn't bad enough that the Sabians and the Chaldeans had taken away his flocks, but now his children were taken away. But this man did not sin. He didn't sin. He said, the Lord giveth, and the Lord taketh away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. And he prayed, and he prayed. Well, by and by, these sons of God and the Almighty were gathered again and again. Here comes Satan. The Lord asked him again, have you noticed my servant Job? Perfect and upright man. And he said, skin for skin. Put forth your hand against his body, and he will curse you. And once again, the Lord told him, he is in your hand. Just do not kill him. Do not take his life. Now, here's what I want you to know about this second attack. He came at him real hard and heavy this time. Not only did he cause them to break out in all kinds of boils and sores and just all manner of pain, but he sent his friends against him. You got one named Bildad and Zophar. He's got, what's his name here? Let me make sure I get his name right here. Eliphaz. Now, you would think an upright, perfect, and just man would have friends of the same stature or nature. But now, I'm not saying that they weren't. But now pay close attention to this. Each one of them came, sat down with him. I think they said 7 days and 7 nights. Because, back then, a tradition was you didn't say anything until the person of mourning would speak first. And when he finally spoke, I believe Eliphaz talked first. And they were dead set on Job had to have done something wrong in order for all these terrible things to be happening to him. But again, after the first one talked, Job held fast. Then the second, each one different version, but they all thought that he had to have done something wrong. One thought he had sinned. One thought that he was hiding something. He had to be unjust. And the other one, the last one, Zophar, he was just so disrespectful to Job. But making a long story short, Job still held fast. As a result, again, I'm going on an edited story. As a result of this man holding fast, not cursing the Lord, not sinning against him. Now, before I get to the end, what I want you to know is, sure, this man was very upset. He was hurt. Look at what he lost, especially his children. There's nothing wrong with grieving. There's nothing wrong with talking to the Lord about it. Let it out. Talk to him. That's the person, the Lord, the Almighty, is the one that you need to be talking about when it gets so dark and dreary. Talk to him. As a result of Job holding fast, enduring, God blessed him even more in the end. He had thousands and thousands of more sheep, thousands and thousands of more she-asses, thousands and thousands of more camels, because he held fast and he did not sin in his heart against the Lord. Now, some of you may wonder why I told that story. I told that story because it so reminds me of the struggles that my mother went through in her life. A lot of the things that I had to personally watch my mother go through. And again, as I told most of my family at my mother's funeral, because she suffered, because she endured, because she kept calling on him, he blessed her with things that she wanted the most. Simple things that my mother prayed for, your mothers pray for. She prayed that one day her children would not be hungry. She prayed that one day her children would not have to live in raggedy houses. She prayed that one day things would be better for her children and her children's children. And he let her live long enough to see the beginnings of that. Like I said with Job, he lived to see his sons and sons have children. He died full of age. Now, summing up this story, we do not know what God's vision is of a perfect, upright man. I've had many discussions about kings and people in the Bible that God has used. For instance, Moses committed murder. I've said this, King Solomon had concubines. We all know that we're not supposed to have but one wife. Again, I don't like getting into insignificant conversations with other people about the wonders and the mercy and the ways of our Almighty, because he works in mysterious ways. Sometimes when you're suffering, it may not be because of something that you did. Let me take you back to the Ten Commandments. I am a jealous God, visiting the iniquities of the fathers unto the children, 3 to 4 generations. It may be something that somebody in your past have done. Remember, I told you a story about King Solomon at the end when he started practicing idolatry. God didn't take away all the things that he had blessed him with, but his son Rehoboam was afflicted after he came to power. So again, it may not be something that you've done. Always remember the Almighty works in mysterious ways. And when suffering and when affliction comes, that is not the time to throw blame. Get closer to the Almighty. Ask Him for forgiveness, whether you did anything or not. As Job said, the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. That's how I look at it with my mother. The Lord gave me my mother. The Lord took my mother away. And I have came to terms with that a long time ago. That is why I always try to enjoy people. You never know when your time is going to come. You never know. That's the beauty of it. You must live in an upright and just way each and every day. Because, one more time, you never know when He's coming again. But you do know He's coming. Now, I hope we have learned a little something tonight. As I say, each and every time I come to you, I'm going to try to explain it in a manner where we can actually grasp it, feel it, apply it to our lives, learn, fellowship, and move forward. In closing, we're getting better all the time. We're getting better all the time. We aren't what we ought to be, but we're better than we used to be. You know why? Because we have a made up mind. Thank you, and God bless you.